Welcome to the Life Beyond the Buzz podcast with Cassie and Ryan Kemp. We are here at the Midwest Magic Processing Facility here in Franklin County, Missouri, with President of the company, Ted Maritz, and Adam Weiss, Master Extractor.
Master Extractor.
We're so excited to have you guys on the podcast. We've really enjoyed getting to know you guys over these last several months and looking forward to hearing everything that you guys have going on.
Yeah, thank you guys very much for having us here. It's welcome to have you here.
Awesome. I guess, it's been a couple years that me and you have known each other, right? We
Correct, yeah.
kind of met downtown at an after party somewhere.
Yeah, sounds about right.
But we really got to know each other last year at Show Me Hemp Fest at Picking on Music Festivals, Picking on Picnic. And I know you guys had lots to share at that event, and I didn't get to catch much of your conversation there, Adam. So since we decided we wanted to do a podcast, we really wanted to get you guys on here and just really understand more about what's going on in Missouri with hemp and how you guys fit into the industry, what you're doing.
Cool. Well, I can certainly tell you guys a little bit about Midwest Magic and what the brand offers out there, right, and everything. And then I can pass it off to Adam, and he can really, talk about the actual, planting and growing of the hemp plant, right? And what all goes in and to show that it can do really well here in Missouri. But to start off about Midwest Magic, we started off as a hemp company. We bought a hemp license a couple years ago after getting denied from a medical marijuana program. And we had an original grow. We moved to this bigger field here that's just outside of the facility here. And then we actually built this facility to process hemp. And that was the original idea. Before we could finish construction, we ended up getting a medical marijuana license, but we still continue our hemp operations. And we have currently another warehouse that we work out of for all of our hemp products. We started first by selling a D8 seltzer. And I know you guys are familiar with those. They are an amazing product. We love them so much. And, we all have family members and people that have been affected by alcohol and, all types of other drugs and whatnot. And it really has served as a product that we consume just within our own friendships and families, and we really truly believe in it. And so, that the idea to move into a beverage started actually during the pandemic for me. And I remember after the first month of being in lockdown, I had smoked so much flower that I couldn't even breathe anymore. I was like, I can't keep smoking like this, and it's bad. And so moved into working and creating this beverage where we met, Josh Loyal with Mighty Kind, who's been a huge help and does a really terrific job. So thank you, Josh. But after that, we you have to look at the data and what is, out there and popular and what sells, right? In order for a company to be successful, to continue to offer these things, it needs to be generating revenue and, making money to make all this stuff happen. And so then we've expanded right into vape pens, full gram vape pens for D8 and D10, as well as D8 gummies. We have a variety also of non-intoxicating gummies, CBG gummy, a CBN gummy, and then we have our CBD gummies have lion's mane mushroom extract in it as well for a little bit extra clarity and focus.
And those are all under the Midwest Magic brand?
Correct.
And where can those products be found in the St. Louis area?
Yeah, so we're in a variety of bars and restaurants for the seltzers and liquor stores, distributed by Craft Republic there. The vape pens, gummies, can be found at all the one-stop smoke shops. That's our best seller there, in Wentzville, Pacific, Washington. And then we're about to finish online store as well too. That'll be open. And then we also, it's a little unclear how the dispensaries, if they're able to sell Delta 8, Delta 10 products or not.
From my experience, it seems like they're kind of not interested at all. But
yeah, it's interesting. There's a few that have had them up there on the shelves. Some that have told me they're not interested, and then a couple months later, I see it on the shelves there or something.
Yeah.
And
I mean, a quality product is a quality product, and it seems like Delta 8 kind of gets a bad rap overall. But I've had probably 3 people over the past week call me, telling me that it's helping them with COPD. With like one person had a tooth extracted, and that was helping them with the pain from that, helping people sleep.
Yeah,
like there's a lot more associated to it than the buzz. Like there is, I feel like in low dosages, not so much of a debilitating effect, but at the same time, if you eat a whole bag of the Midwest Magic gummies, you might be taking a good solid nap.
Pay attention to the serving size, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it is all of cannabis, right? We consider medicine for people, right? And to understand your limits and kind of know your dosage. And if you're unfamiliar with your dosage, then start small and go from there, right? And that's with anything that you're consuming that could have potential side effects.
For sure, whether it's a chocolate cake or
yeah, yeah, and especially if you're messing around at home with baking your own edibles or whatever like that, and you don't know how to properly measure out all the milligrams from the concentrate or flour that you're making it from. It's important just to start small and figure out and learn your limits and everything. So
is that something that the laboratory here has control over, or is that farther down the process as far as dosage goes in products? Was that something that's done in-house?
We certainly have control over the strength, to an extent, right? There's certain limitations, right? And there's certain products that you can make, especially on the medical marijuana side, that would count against. It's kind of technical with you're only allowed to buy a certain amount of cannabis from the stores. And it's, every gram of flour, gram of concentrate, or bag of edibles is counted differently. And so, 1 gram of concentrate is the same as 100 milligrams of edibles on your purchase allotment. However, 1 gram of concentrate can make theoretically 10 bags of that 100 milligram edible.
Right.
So the laws don't exactly make sense, right? And there's ways for people to get different dosages from different products if they're making their own, right? But we do control the dosage that go into our gummies, right? Our Delta 8 or CBD, CBN, whatever it may be. All that stuff is dosed. And with all the pens, they're all standard 1 gram pens. So, those go through an automatic filler and everything. So those are always consistent as well too. But yes, we do have to report dosing and do full lab tests. And we do full safety tests on all of our products on the hemp side, held them to the same standards that we do the medical marijuana as well. So for anybody who has been concerned about not knowing what's in your Delta 8 product, we test for everything that we possibly can.
Yeah.
So
from that standpoint on the limitations in the dispensaries, it seems like maybe having some Delta 8 products that there are no limitations on sitting side by side, or CBD products, is an upsell for the bud tender, right? And maybe that's some education that
it's
can be brought
great
to
for the
table.
patient as well too, right? I mean, there's so much new science coming into this industry that we are just kind of learning as it pops out left and right, as we don't even know what's coming out next around the corner. We can have an idea, but there's still a lot that's getting figured out every day. And the science is always going to be ahead of the laws, right? The laws will always be reactive. But no, that is a big, to answer your question, that is a big part of our plan to, let patients shop with our brand without them thinking that they can only buy so much, right? If they are getting close to their limitation or want to get other things as well too, right? We do have a lot of options for them to supplement and to also learn, about the entourage effect or the combination of cannabinoids that might work best for them. We've, ourselves have tried Delta 8 and Delta 9 products side by side at the same time and have had, amazing effects and results and really enjoyed it. So, we want to be able to offer those same experiences to all of our customers.
It's interesting, and I know you've been doing some work, or at least learning about 2704, House Bill 2704, and what's happening with that. And what's really interesting about what you guys are doing is combining hemp and the medical side, and saying that, like this is, or wanting to anyway, starting in hemp and then, getting into the medical side. But then your vision for your brand is being able to have all these things. I'm not sure that it doesn't seem like there's a lot of people that are really seeing it that way. It's like more of like an either or thing. But I think that's pretty exciting because it really is a plant with this wide range of uses. And while it's been unshackled somewhat, it's still in these boxes, right?
100%. And it's hemp and cannabis are the same plant.
Yeah,
I mean,
right.
it's hemp and marijuana, and it's just a genetic difference, right? And one of the biggest hiccups in the hemp industry is that there's a lot of farmers that their hemp crop test high positive for THC and they have to cut it all down. When now people are just converting CBD to Delta 8 anyway. So
what about the hemp derived Delta 9? Where does that fall for you guys?
We're
is it
just
avenue worth
for us into? No, because we have our medical marijuana license here.
Yep.
And so we do know that there's a lot of our competition on the hemp side that's doing that, but it's just a risk that we don't.
And we're going to focus on the medical cannabis side on full spectrum products that we use our extraction lab to produce. And so our products are going to generally be fresh frozen live resins that we can make into cartridges and make into diamonds and other hash products that are full spectrum. And so that we're not using distillation, we're using an extraction process so we can get the terpenes to come over as well as other plant metabolites and the cannabinoids. So full spectrum. That's
where the flavor's at, right?
Flavor's at, yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Right on.
And then to speak to bringing the hemp part in with the CBD, CBG, and other cannabinoids that we can grow with our hemp license, and being able to take that plant material and immediately freeze it and bring it into the laboratory and extract full spectrum hemp products, which are actually pretty rare on the market. Most hemp is most CBD is made through a distillation process, which removes the terpenes. And so we can take our hemp and freeze it, and then hopefully a goal is to bring it into our lab and then create full spectrum CBD and CBG products that we can then ratio with our THC products and create therapeutic products that aren't generally just for getting a head change. They're for therapy purposes. And we can even do potentially co-extractions and like with both plant materials together in the same process, and then see what sort of plant alchemy we can make that in therapeutic products. Especially because, THC percentages are getting in the 30s now with flower, and that's pretty strong. And so most people don't generally want to just get a head change. They want to alleviate some condition that they're looking to reduce. And so things like adding CBN or CBD or CBG to the THC to reduce the amount of THC and also add therapeutic benefits.
I've been seeing some, kind of playing around with those combinations myself, seeing big difference in how it affects me daily versus going straight for the THC to the highest degree. Like that balance is, it's been really nice effect.
I'm really excited about the terpenes. The cannabinoids are great, and they have definite therapeutic abilities, but the terpenes we're learning a lot about now. And
They have some therapeutic benefits as
oh
well.
yes,
don't
yeah, they do, and it's less studied, but we're learning a lot right now. And our hemp, our CBD hemp especially, is extremely high in terpenes, and so I'm excited to extract the terpenes and use them as therapeutic products as well. And sometimes we can separate them from the cannabinoids and have them as their own therapy, which is going to be exciting.
That is exciting. I'm extra THC sensitive. I got a product that was full spectrum, and I hadn't tried any hemp product for several years, and tried it, and it totally knocked me out basically. And I forgot what I had taken. I didn't realize that it could be strong. I think it was dosed too strong. But do you have any tips for people that are looking for like kind of a more whole plant experience, or would like to have that but also feel like they're THC sensitive?
Well, if you're THC sensitive, CBG can be a very useful cannabinoid because your endocannabinoid system has a higher affinity for CBG than it does for THC. So if you include CBG with your THC consumption, you can kind of moderate the amount of THC that is entering your system, but also fulfilling your endocannabinoids desire to be full of cannabinoids. And so, and CBG is therapeutic on its own. It's very anti-inflammatory, very good for your nervous system. It's also antimicrobial and can help with illness and stuff like that. So, but really, really good for your nervous system. So it's one that I like to combine with THC. And so we're going to grow out thousands of CBG plants this summer, and then hopefully be able to extract them and then combine with our products. And it's one that I'm learning a lot about, and I have found to be very useful for myself, especially with anxiety and nervous system issues. It seems to calm me down a lot. And more
so than CBD in a way you can.
Well, CBD for me seems to be like like my muscles and my skeletal system. Like it seems to be more body based, where the CBG tends to be more in my nervous system.
Yeah,
I feel the same way.
Yeah, kind of all over.
I feel the same way.
It's kind of a mood booster too, in a way. So where CBD tends to be a little bit more relaxing.
Sleepy time.
Yeah.
You said it's a social lubricant.
It is for me. I don't know if it's similar. I haven't had too much kava, but it kind of reminds me of my experiences with that, where I feel like it's almost like a brightening, It's not a dulling at all, but it also brings a lot of ease. It's really interesting. The nervous system thing, that's how I feel. I've been experimenting about like not having it, and then just having even a couple of the CBG seltzers a week, and it makes a difference for I feel like the whole week. It's really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Do you know, so I've wondered, and I think you might have some insight on it, but so we're talking about cannabis, like hemp and marijuana are the same family, right? And I kind of got the
same
when
species.
you said it, same species, you said they're the same plant, where it's like I was thinking of like this family dinner, and you have that aunt or uncle that's, they're partying, over there, but then you have like all different kinds of members of the family, but I guess with hemp are the super high THC plants, are those bred on purpose? Was like where we started, was it more like where industrial hemp is?
So, where we started, it started a long, long, long time ago,
right.
Thousands and thousands of years ago. There were wild hemp plants that had small amounts of THC and CBD and CBG in them. And we found that, I don't know how the moment happened, but somebody threw it on their fire and it smoked and they felt different. And then they started selecting plants after that did that effect stronger. And then they started breeding them. And we eventually came up with marijuana, which is a high THC hemp plant. And then we bred it continually until now we're at 30+% THC. And then we did the same thing with actually the CBD and CBG wasn't an ancient cultivation because it didn't have a head change, and so that's a new thing. And we actually built the CBD plant out of a THC plant in the past, and we bred it to contain less and less THC and more CBD. Same with CBG and all the other hemp strains, but they all originated is marijuana. And 50 years ago, marijuana had potencies of under 10%. And it was those plants that somebody took and then started cultivating the other cannabinoids out of. Mm-hmm. And then we are at the point now where we can grow CBD crops and CBG crops without too much fear of it becoming heavy in THC, so that it fails testing.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to worry about those cross-pollinating each other?
You do, and so we just avoid having males around, which is really the trick, unless we're breeding, and then they're on the other side of the property, and then we might take a little baggie of pollen with a paintbrush and very carefully do some breeding. But you can't have any boys around, or else you end up with seeds.
Yeah.
And about 2/3 of our hemp plants this year were actually from a seedless seed. Mm-hmm. So it's a new technology that Oregon CBD came out with in the last couple of years, and without getting into all the genetics and how it all works, I understand that regular seeds are considered diploid seeds, and these seedless ones are triploid seeds. So there's one more
set of chromosomes.
One more set of chromosomes, right?
Which means they cannot be pollinated. They cannot make seeds, no matter how much pollen falls on them. No matter if our neighbor decides to put in an industrial hemp grow, which will produce clouds of pollen and could potentially harm our crop. If we wanted to produce industrial hemp next door, we could, because we can safeguard our medical grow with this triploid technology, so that it can't produce seeds.
Tyler Morgan from Skytrace was talking about the Forbidden V. Are you familiar with that strain? The CBDV strain?
So I've heard of some CBDV strains.
It came from Oregon Seed Company, our CBD company. Mm-hmm. And I just got like one little nugget of it. It was pretty tasty.
Yeah.
I want to feel like I want to talk shit on CBD buds, but like the stuff you guys are producing, some of the stuff I'm seeing out there is like as dank as some of the fire weed on the market.
Actually, some of our stuff was higher in terpenes than some of like our personal medical grows, and some of the stuff that's in dispensaries, the THC stuff that's in dispensaries, our CBD was more pungent and had just as much, if not more, terpenes in it, which really makes me excited, because then we can harvest those terpenes.
Do you think that comes from where it's being grown here? Like we were set up for the perfect conditions, your knowledge of the plant, and
that's a lot of it. It's genetics. It's a mixture of the two, but certainly growing them well helps a lot. And we moved our grow site to where it is presently because we ran into so many problems with our old site, which initially seemed like the most perfect site, but ended up being just a little too wet, and the plants don't like wet feet. And our new site has a nice gentle slope, and it has fertile soil, but the main issue is good drainage for us, and has helped significantly with cannabinoid production and terpene production. And then where we grew our hemp this year was a spot that had been a cattle feeding area for 100 years. And so we ended up with extremely fertile soil. It's magnificent, awesome soil. 100-year-old composted cow manure.
Yeah.
So really remarkable. That. And so it helped produce very large plants with a lot of potency, and then watering them but not watering them too much, and fertilizing them but not fertilizing them too much, and all that stuff to make them more potent.
What do you see yourself doing for the 2022 season differently than what you did in 2021? To be honest, it's managing the pests, which was really the most difficult and most challenging part of growing the hemp. And we're not certified organic, but we're using similar processes and staying away from chemicals, and using biological insect management systems, using BT, and then also diatomaceous earth and stuff like that. This year I'm going to be a lot more diligent with the caterpillars, which tended to be our biggest issue, was a caterpillar infestation. Never thought I'd be cursing butterflies, but I cut into a couple of those buds, and like one of those dudes was in there
Yeah. And so trying to figure out how to manage those caterpillars and other insects. And so hopefully with our new facility, we can pull out of the field before a dangerous wet condition moment happens, which will cause a lot of bud rot. And we can pull out of the field, before the insect damage gets too bad, even if the plants aren't fully mature, when they still have plenty of cannabinoids and terpenes to make it, pleasant and profitable. But before they get destroyed by poor conditions and insects, we can immediately flash freeze them and then save them as frozen, and then do an extraction on that frozen material and get the terpenes and the cannabinoids out. So having the ability to take out of the field and immediately store is going to be a game changer for us. And then just applying the right biological insecticides or insect preventive sprays at the right time. And generally, that right time ends up being every week because of rains.
Yep.
And those organic insect controls tend to wash off with every rain. So they have to be reapplied. And last year I wasn't super diligent, and I did some experiments where some of the rows I did apply and some rows I didn't. And the rows that I did not apply, we lost a lot out of. And so
pest all year long, are you looking for different ones at different points in the season, or
it's the caterpillars?
The caterpillars
corn,
are the worst.
They're the same ones that bore into your sweet corn or your field corn. It's the corn borer caterpillar, and those ones are by far the main issue. And another option which we can explore on a few plants is putting up butterfly netting. That's a lot of work and some cost, but we're going to do an experiment on a small row and see if that can do it. If just butterfly netting over the row can limit that, and then there's no biological sprays necessary.
Do you think that there's probably obviously different pests in different areas of the country where people are growing hemp?
Yeah.
And Missouri has its own issues to deal with. What else can you say about growing hemp in Missouri, and what we have to look forward to in the future of the hemp industry?
Yeah, it's a great place to grow hemp. Our sun is in our soil, and our weather is awesome. There's a few moments during every summer that they need to be watered, so irrigation's important. Super important to plant at the right time. You don't want to plant too early, or else they'll flower on you. It's an interesting plant to work with because it's photosensitive, and it requires 14 hours of daylight or it wants to flower, and so it needs to be planted after the end of May, or else it will flower and you won't get your crop will be much reduced. Humidity is our problem in Missouri. It tends to, even with the caterpillars, if we didn't have the humidity, the caterpillars wouldn't be much of an issue. It's the fact that the caterpillars live in there, and then it rains on the buds, and then they get a gray mold called bud rot, and it can go through them really quick. And so humidity and soil moisture, it's all about managing water here. We get a little too much of it. Cannabis plants tend to like very dry conditions, as long as they're getting adequate moisture. And so bud rot and the white molds and stuff like that can cause a lot of problems. And so mitigating that, strains help a lot. The more, a lot of people for dispensary purposes and for sales like buds that are very dense. And those buds tend to be more susceptible to rot in the field. And so we've noticed that some of the better varieties tend to have a little bit more open flower structure.
A little more airy.
Yeah. And, the hemp market is mostly, concentrates or distillates and not so much flower.
Yeah.
And so focusing on those types of hemp that are well-bred for high humid areas. And even though they might not make the most dense buds, they produce the same amount, if not more, of the cannabinoids and terpenes.
Is there particular strains that stand out as far as
the
ones that grow good
Oregon
in Missouri?
CBD genetics that we got were fantastic. I don't know. We planted a dozen types. I don't remember exactly what they were, but there's a lot. And their CBD strains were extremely high terpenes, and those terpenes helped mitigate the insects as well. The CBG is coming along. It's a bit of a newer plant technology, and they haven't combined the heavy terpenes with the heavy cannabinoids. They got the cannabinoids figured out, but some of the terpene notes are coming in the next few years. And so, but yeah, it's all about the late season rains, and when it rains on a dense bud and that water holds inside of that flower is when you can have problems. Mm-hmm. So, in an ideal world, you'd be able to put an umbrella over it in a rain, but we'll figure that out.
You're gonna need a big umbrella.
Yeah, right, right. But yeah, I think it's a matter of the genetics is huge, and a lot of great genetics from Missouri is coming out of Oregon, because Oregon tends to be more humid than California.
Sure. And
so their hemp genetics seem to do better here.
It seems like they've been doing it for quite some time there with the hemp program. Mm-hmm. You were wanting to ask a question earlier about what can Missouri learn from other states that have a hemp program going on currently. That you raised your eyebrows a little bit earlier when we were talking about 2704. Are you?
There seems to be a lot going on legislatively with hemp and cannabis, and I definitely want to, whether it's Adam's talking about what we can learn from the actual growing, but what can we learn as entrepreneurs and at the landscape of what can Missouri learn from these other states? And then also I'd like to get into what can people do that want to be in this space and feel passionate about being in hemp, and how to win in this industry. Mm-hmm. And because I know you guys are doing things with integrity, you love to partner with people. I really love the collaborative atmosphere. I feel like that's why we vibe with you guys so well. We've got the same spirit, So what are some pro tips for people that are wanting to get into it? So a couple different topics there.
Yeah. So the first, I'll just address the industry here in Missouri in general. And yes, you're right. There is a lot going on, and a lot of stuff going on in potentially different directions. Where I personally stand is with the Cannabis Freedom Act that is backed, I believe it's by Ron Hicks, a Republican-backed bill.
Which is House Bill 2704, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, that is 2704?
Yep.
Okay.
With it has the CBD Labeling Act in it, but they're going to be working on it, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same one. That's the good one.
It's confusing. We've been really immersing ourselves the last few weeks, and I'm just every time I talk to Tyler or talk with somebody, I'm like, there's just so much to learn.
Yeah, and it's I think it's probably what's best for our industry here. It would move the government control to the Department of Agriculture, which currently does hemp. They make the hemp very easy to deal with. Mm-hmm. And we haven't had any issues with DHSS at all. And we don't foresee any, but we know that the industry has, and that, the rollout of the licensing was
for medical.
Yeah, for medical it just turned out to be a mess. And, the cannabis freedom would open up, still be a highly regulated market, but would essentially get rid of license caps. I think that is very good and important in order to have a healthy industry, with all these different companies being able to compete with each other on the same level. You also, want to avoid some of what has happened in Oklahoma or something, for example, too. And generally that can be pretty easily done by making a very high barrier to entry to get one of these licenses, even though they are quite open.
What happened in Oklahoma?
So before that, let me just finish here, because you kind of Oklahoma.
I brought up a lot of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of questions. Oklahoma had an open policy, and they only have medical marijuana down there. And essentially, what it would seem is a lot of people who were working in Oregon or California or Colorado or wherever were looking for a change or new opportunity, right? Kind of went to Oklahoma. It's a little bit of the Wild West. They now, have found themselves overrun with like cartel and stuff like that, and just bad news and illegal operations, and either people dressing up as police or off-duty cops coming in and extorting companies and stuff. I mean,
Wow.
it's and the market there. My friends involved in there, everything is dirt cheap, and everyone's having a tough time just because there's so much flooded.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Turf wars now.
Yeah. So, the cannabis freedom in my eyes, the great way to do it would, tell any of these, big, there's a couple different levels and ways to get licensing, right? Obviously, there needs to be some type of social equity program put in place, and, some funding or licenses to help any of those people who have been very negatively affected by the consequences of the laws against this plant.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important to give them, the right to come in and compete as well. They deserve the right first and foremost, before any of these, big VC built companies. Personally, I think a lot of these big companies that go out and raise, $20 million to set up all this stuff and everything generally don't put out tons of good product. Every once in a while you get one that does, but so
it's just kind of like race to get you the cheapest product that they can get you to make money.
So why not make a license cost $1 million so that you have to be serious that you're here to play, but if you're impoverished or fall under the other line, then maybe it, with the right business plan, location, setup, could be free or a very minimal amount or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows the perfect number or anything like that? It's still much for debate, but the idea would be to promote the local business and still allow the big business, but recognize that it is big business and tax them for it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? If that's the game that you're going to play. So I think that having that and then having all the cannabinoids treated with the same safety requirements, essentially, and kind of bringing it all under house as one could be very powerful. I think it gives anybody who would want to really the opportunity to, but I think it's right important that we mitigate it and not let it get out of control and stuff too. So
do you think that hurts the hemp industry if Delta 8 and Delta 10 and the other isomers get
Yeah, I guess that's one thing that we're hearing in the hemp industry is that people are concerned that there's no distinction in that bill currently between Delta 8 or Delta 9, because previously hemp was defined as less than 0.3% Delta 9 THC, and in that bill it is not distinguished, I guess. And so that's the rub, and I think that seems to be the tension with the Delta 8 kind of came up and surprised everybody, right? And the people that are invested all of that money into the medical side of things are now like, hey, all of our people, that our patients are supposed to be buying this, and now there's this. It seems like the plant wants to get free, right? That's what it seems like to me. It's like, this is really interesting.
And there's nothing stopping those guys from building a business based around hemp and selling all those products to patients. It's so new and exciting. How, as like a weed company, you don't want to offer it all to everybody. I just don't quite understand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Yeah.
The pick and choose the side of, and the people who are butthurt about Delta 8. I mean, they just don't know what's going on, and they're clearly not on top of like the industry and stuff. It all seems so crazy to me when it really is.
Do you think that Delta 8 needs to be regulated in the same way that Delta 9 THC is regulated, or do you think that that's kind of, it's obviously, I feel like a loophole that we're working in currently, but
it is. I think do
you think it holds the same ramifications?
I love how it is open for business. The only thing that I would ask or recommend to regulators is, just on the safety side, right? To make sure that the products being sold are tested and held to the same standards as other cannabis products in the state. But no, and that's the great thing about Cannabis Freedom Act too, is it opens up hospitality licenses for the industry. So venues, bars, restaurants, those types of businesses could apply for smaller licenses to resell some of these products. And so I feel especially that, Cannabis Freedom really kind of brings the two together, and right for, I guess I could understand how some, dispensary owners are scared or whatever, but, like, it's everybody who's scared are the people who aren't making money on one side or the other.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so if you just come at it from both and treat the plant just as a cannabis plant rather than either hemp or marijuana, and understand that it all works together, then don't foresee you really running into those issues. But no, I think it's great for us as producers, right? It gives us all more areas and customers, right? And all types of more places. So
Well,
It definitely opens up the playing field, the types of places that you can get, from hair salons to, the liquor store, and having an option at the liquor store, I think is nice. But even having that option at a bar or a restaurant is way more, I feel like, even more considerate of the owners of that establishment, to be like thinking about their customers, not just wanting to keep pouring the alcohol down your throat.
Or energy drinks. I was thinking about energy drinks the other day, and like, people are so worried about the delta 8. It's like, well, I can go to the Quick Trip and totally jack myself up on energy drinks. And I'm not going to do that. Right. I'm not going to do that. But it seems like, and so I guess there's the other approach that's being taken is that proposition. That's, I think, what would seem to hurt the industry and not be good for patients. I think it's you said 27, the Cannabis Freedom Act is a good one. And I think there's some other legislative pushes right now that are kind of coming at it from a different direction, which would further regulation and keep things kind of shackled up like they are. But
There's is that Legal Mo 22 that you're talking about? Yeah, they're going out and getting signatures and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, I don't think it's good for the industry. It may be good for a few people that are involved, but even then, those of us who are in are, unsure whether or not you get a license with the lottery and all this stuff anyway. And so, for me, I very easily look at it, well, this Legal Mo still just restricts everything, and maybe it works out in my favor, maybe it doesn't, but Cannabis Freedom is good for the industry, definitely good for us, and it just seems to be what is right. And how you said it a great way, and freeing the plant, right? And right, that's always been our goal, and what we're all really want at the bottom of our heart. But so go Cannabis Freedom.
Yeah. Awesome.
Right on. Did you have anything else you wanted to add to that, Adam, as far as anything on your mind? I know you got a lot of stuff rattling around up there.
Yeah. Mostly that, I don't know. I would like to see backyard grows as part of this too. I'd like to see, I think cannabis, I'm grateful for the medical personal grows, because I think cannabis is a wonderful plant to grow, and I'd like to see that included in all the future where you don't need an industrial hemp license to grow hemp, or in a small scale necessarily, where people can grow their own medicine even if you don't have a medical THC card.
And so Cannabis Freedom allows any person to grow up to 12 plants.
That's great.
Yep.
Awesome. So there
Any
you go.
person.
I believe it's 21 and up or whatever.
12 personal plants.
Yes,
Nice.
I believe
Probably,
that's correct.
That of those plants, it could be a CBD plant, CBG plants, and THC plants.
Yeah.
Right. So that's great. That's what I want to see. That's what I hope for the future is, is that people can take, their medicine into their own hands and also learn to grow plants, and just, cannabis is a gateway gardening plant. You start growing cannabis, you end up growing tomatoes and your vegetables pretty quick. So that's a wonderful thing about cannabis, is it gets people in the garden.
Yeah. Gateway gardening plant. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for having us out here today, guys. Got some good pictures. We're going to post those on the internet. And I know, what else you got to say? Something important, I'm sure.
I have one more topic. What about entrepreneurship, and what any closing words for people in the space that are in this for the right reasons and want to ride the wave and get involved, or already have hemp businesses, and what would you say?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of opportunity in this industry. I think my best advice is to start with one thing that either you're already really good at, or if you're really brand new, one thing that you're very interested in, and kind of sticking with that and focusing on one thing and gaining some traction and gaining some recognition and some success there before reaching out and expanding and trying to do everything at once.
It gets very distracting. There's so many.
Exactly. There's a lot of different avenues to go. I would recommend go out and see what you like the most, right? And make it your own. Build it from there.
And go to cannabis events and start meeting everybody, because it's a great community. And I think we're building a really good culture here in Missouri around hemp.
For sure.
I agree. So you guys are on Instagram, right? Midwest Magic on Instagram.
At Midwest Magic Official.
All right. And then you got the website up yet, or is it?
The website
will be up very soon.
Will be up very soon here.
We'll post links to that too. Hopefully this will be coming.
It might have even been open today. It's supposed to be
MidwestMagic.com.
MidwestMagicOfficial.com.
MidwestMagicOfficial.com. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for coming on. This has been a great conversation.
Thank you guys for having us.
See you next time.
Ooh.